This conference will now be recorded.
Today we're going to talk a little about assignment approvals and notifications. My name's Glenn West. I'm with Alliance Solutions Group. We're a business partner for Acumatica Construction Edition. So there's three concepts inside Acumatica we want to look at today and walk through what they do and how they're connected. Their assignment, approvals, and notifications. And so those three components are really part of the XRP platform. So they work across all the different editions and tools that we have, including the construction edition and maybe the field service edition and CRM, financials. So they aren't tied to any one area, but they are available on, I think, all new records or all records in the system. Records for us are really indicating places that we're adding data. Could be a master file, might be a transaction file, but they work within the workflows, which we'll take a look at. It also then is available in the mobile framework, and then we can also look at this as it relates to kind of role-based security. So these are just some examples of places where we might find an implementation of those one or all three of those environments. So we might do this in accounts payable bill. Just a typical process. Invoice comes in the office. We want to enter the invoice, and we want the system to help us move it through the organization for review and approval. That also can hold true for things like purchase orders and purchase requests. We can do that on master file. So if we want a vendor being set up, but we don't necessarily want staff to have the ability to activate that vendor, we can let people move through the process of capturing information about the vendor, saving that information, but before we activate that and make it live, we can go through let's say the approval process. Customers, jobs, sub-jobs, pro forma invoices, let a project manager start a pro forma invoice, abstract it all the way out, and then save it and have it move on to the next person for approval, which might be, we'll take it into a project accountant, and that accountant might have the final approval and then the responsibility of sending it. That could happen with just a basic AR invoice, expense receipts, subcontracts, RFIs, requests for information, project issues, expense claims, change requests, change orders, employee time, equipment time. So it's basically in that platform. So as we work through the platform, we look at the platform, we look at records. Just remember these three items are available for you. And I hate to say on everything, but it's pretty close to everything. So let's go ahead and park that and go over to Acumatica. So here is a dashboard. I'm logged into Acumatica. I'm looking at a project manager's dashboard. It's showing me widgets that are different ways of looking at the data. These are tiles, and we're using a color orientation to show me information that may be important to me, relevant to me. All of these have drill down capabilities. So if I want to see my over budget projects or I want to see my late project tasks, I can just click and drill down. And these, again, are widgets here. I've got project summary, basically showing me information here. I've got a change order log. I've got, budget versus actual. One of the items that I do have here is my items to approve. So the approval process is available within dashboard. So you really see this in a couple places. It is available in the dashboard. You have a widget. That widget would tell you what you need to approve. You can go through the approval process right there. You can go to the approval window. So if I just type in approval, this will take me to the approvals, and when I go to that program, it'll open up and show me that these are the items that I need to approve. I can also do that on any screen, because what basically will happen is when I select this bill and double click, it will open it up, and then I can do the review and approve. Or if I know it's fine, I can come through and approve here. We'll kind of look at this as we go along with work groups. So you can get it here on a program, which I can put on any of my menus. So it could be a favorite. If I said, hey, I want to go see the approvals, I could go back and say, you know what, I want that approvals here, and I want to go ahead and put it on my favorites task. And so now, if I know I need to do approvals, I can come out and just go, going to go in, for my time and approvals. If not, I can take it off my favorites task. So you have this ability to define the approvals as we go. I'm going to use a global search here. I'm going to go in here and say I'm looking for approvals. Oops. Let me get my my mouse here. I'm going to go back to approvals. And as we look, I can see that I have tasks to approve, but I also have assignment and approval maps. This is where we go in to set up what approval that we want to do. And it also works for this assignment. So the differentiation here between notification, assignment, and approvals is important. A notification, let's start with an assignment. Assignment is where I have a new record that comes into the system, and I want to assign that record to someone going forward. So a good example is in CRM. So if you have a new lead that comes into the software, and I want to go through and assign that lead to somebody in the organization, I can set up an assignment map, and actually inside that map, we can start to define how we want to handle it. So when I look at like a project issue, I want to assign an issue, and so that issue is going to be defined by project. But it's somebody that I'm telling the system, hey, I need to see, or I want to see what's going on within that assignment. So CRM, new lead comes in. I'm going to say it's in California. It's going to be assigned to an estimator or a business development rep, and I want that rep to now be responsible for that lead that's coming in. And so it's something new that needs an owner. And so that can hold true in many places. Maybe a new vendor, I want someone to go through and vet that vendor. I may go through and set up basic information. It's new, nobody owns it, let's get it assigned, and we move on from there. That person's then responsible for whatever workflow is associated with that new record. An approval map assumes that a record's come into the organization and that we want to work it through the organization for approval. And so that tends to be more like things, accounts payable bills that we need to look at, purchase orders that we may want to look at, time card, expense claims, opportunity assignments. Those are things that I want to walk through in approval. And then you have the ability in the system to define what these approvals look like. So we call it a map. And so this is one map for an AP approval bill. And I'm telling the system that inside this company, I have a certain approval process. So if you think through the way the system's designed, where we have multiple companies and companies have departments, we can start to define how an approval works, not only for the whole organization, but also within an organization. So maybe an office, we have a different approval process, or a division or department or type of work that we're doing. In this case, I'm limiting this to the department that I work, or the company I work, which is the west side of the organization. And to remind you here, these are the different companies that I have with the different departments. So I'm really working inside one department right now. I'm defining how I want the workflow to be. And I'm basically saying that when bills come in, I'm going to assign a bill to somebody for approval. So a person at the front, maybe they scan the invoice, they put in the vendor information, maybe they know what PO, subcontract, maybe they start to code, and they code as much as they can, they save it. The approval map then takes over. And so in this case, we can really assign something to be approved by a role. So let's say a project manager. It can be approved by an individual. So let's just say a cost accountant, or it can be approved by a group. We call them work groups, but let's just say it's anybody in accounting. So we don't really care who it is that approves it. We just want somebody inside that work group. And then they can be put in a sequential order. So I can say all bills are walking through a certain process. And because I'm in a specific office, maybe I'm assigning those to the AP clerk, or maybe I'm assigning those to an owner source, which might be project manager. If you get the idea here, you're really defining it. Is it a person? Is it a role? Is it a group? Who am I doing it with? And then I can define conditions. So how is this going to be controlled? If in this case I'm doing a really simple one, I'm saying all bills are going one way, and then any bill over a certain amount, over $1,000, is going to go to another way. So I want it to split. And so when we look at these bills, it really can be sequential. So it can be from the person scanning to the project manager, from the project manager to the cost accountant. And then at certain points, at sizes, we may say, you know what, that's over $5,000, it needs to go to VP of construction. And so the software allows you to build that map in any way you want. And we assign those maps to a process. So in this case, it's accounts payable bill. So when we look at these different approval processes, we are starting to determine what is it that we need to see, and how do I want the system to handle what's going on for that document, in this case, a two-step PO approval process. Now, again, this can be almost on any record that we have. So when we start looking at things, we can start to look at things like purchase requests or requisition or purchase orders that we may do, or setting up vendors as we move through here. We can get into the payable side. So maybe I want the bills to go through one way, but I want the checks to go through another, or setting up vendors. And when we get into construction, we start looking at things like change requests and pro formas and budget forecasts and setting up projects. All have this capability to run through that approval process. So when we look, we start to now determine, what is it that we're looking for here? We're looking to assign something to the organization. I'm assigning a record, or I'm looking for the approval of a record, and I'm going to define that workflow. And finally, we need to determine, how do we tell somebody that they have something to approve? And we have a notification system. And so I can tie a notification to an approval. So in this case, if I have an accounts payable bill and I enter the bill and the system goes through whatever type of approval assignment it does, the system could automatically queue up a notification. That notification can either be a push notification to your phone, or it can be an email. And so in this case, I'm just saying, when an AP bill is processed and it's starting through the approval process, when it is assigned to somebody for approval, we're going to go ahead and send them an email. And the email template that we're building here, something that is definable by organization, and it's pulling information out of the database. So I can say, hey, dear project manager, whoever it is, this is an AP bill, and we're just basically putting in the document type, and we're feeding in here who the vendor was, what the amount is, what the payment date might be there, the cash discounts that were gotten, whatever we need to do. The email will show up. That person can click on a link in the email, and it'll open up Acumatica, and they can go through the approval process right there. So we've got an ability now to notify that individual that there's something out there for them to approve, right? And we can do that as an email template, but we can also do push notifications. Push notification is that box that pops up on your smartphone. So I don't necessarily need to go into my email. I'll get, oh, hey, here's something I need to approve, and we'll go through, and I can see exactly what's happening within that. So we jump out and we'll look at a couple screens real quick, just so you get an idea. You have to define the system into what's going on within the assignment or the approval. So if I go out and I look, say, at a purchase order, just as an example, and we'll go look at an AP bill in a minute. I've got a purchase order here, and it's on hold. And then if I had activated the approval tree for this, you can see that I have the ability on my actions to say approve or reject. That's telling me, as we go through here, that someone has entered it and it's in my court. I need to approve it or reject it. I can do that right from the screen, and you'll find that on most screens. So when we come into this construction and I go look at a project, a good place to look on most screens is going to be a couple places. So let's just say we go here and I want to go find my hotel job. And so I go to my search screen and I say there's my hotel job. When I open this hotel job, I can determine what the status of that job is right here. I can say, hey, it's active. Now, it could have come in and it could have been in a pending status. I could have been on a hold status. And then within the actions, I can see I had an approve or reject. Now, when I go through and I walk through the approval process, the beauty of this is we keep track of that approval process, the approval details on all these records. So I can show who were the individuals or work groups or roles that went through and approved this record. So got a project set up, it's going to go through that type of environment. If I go into bills and adjustments, the same idea is I can start to look to see what bills I have out here. When I go grab a bill, I can look to see the status. And let's just open up an accounts payable bill and look at the actions. So in this case, I've got a bill out here, and I don't have an approve or reject because the system's it's open. Someone's already done this. If it needed to be approved, I can look at the approval details to see exactly who did the approval on this. So all these records have this capability. Now, the experience from the end user could look at something like this. They could log into their dashboard, and the project manager comes in, and they might see items that they need to approve. Right? I can see, oh, hey, I gotta approve a bill. I got to approve this. I got to approve that. Those are the things I need to do. They also could come through and they might have a favorite. And so I could go to my approvals. So it might look like this. Where I come in and I say, hey, these are all the approvals I need. And this could be a widget on the dashboard. I can come in and if I want to see what's going on within that, I just double click, it opens up that bill. I can then look to see where that bill is, where it's coded, are there any warnings that I need to do, and I go through and I can go through and say, hey, approve or reject. And then I would see on the system all of the approvals. So in this case, Maxwell Bakers were pending approval on this. I'm logged in as somebody else, but I can see maybe all of the approvals that need to happen within my project. When we get to this approval process, we also have an ability to monitor the length of time and report on the length of time people are going through the approval process. And we can move the document automatically through the approval process based on time as well. So maybe I give somebody 48 hours to approve it, and I'm going to move it to the next person. I can also use the notification engine to remind that person, hey, there are approvals that we need you to see. There's things that I need for you to look at. So you're going to go through the system and look at it from whatever perspective you want. Is it the bills or adjustments done here? So right now I'm going to jump over real quick, and I'm going to pull up my my phone. We'll get this up here real quick, and now I need to let me log into my phone. I'm sorry. I'm pulling over the screen. So here is my screen of my mobile app. So we can see exactly what's going on. Here's the mobile app that I've got. It's logged in, whatever company I've logged in, whatever I have access to. These are the different things that we can do. I can capture expense receipts or look at claims. I can start to look at events and opportunities within CRM and cases and tasks and time cards. And so almost anything that we see within the web-based application, we've optimized for what's happening inside this, so including things like dashboards. So when we look to see what's going on with the project manager or marketing manager, and I haven't logged in a while, but let's just say a project manager wants to go out and they're going to log in. This is now again a reconnecting. It's pulling up the dashboard we were looking at on my phone. Again, I have drill down capabilities, and as we move down through these items, I'm looking at the change order log. I can see my items to approve right there. Those are the things that I need to see on my approvals. To make it a little bit easier, we actually have a widget that's sitting in the system, and that widget just lets me come out and say, hey, I'm looking at approvals. And so now I've got the ability to come to my phone. It's loading whatever approvals are associated with me, and I'm in a fairly not a really good environment here, but let's just say I want to look at that bill. So it'll come out. I click on the bill. I'm just using my finger. It'll go pull that bill up, and then I can take a look to see exactly what's on that bill. And then as we look further down here, if it's something that I have to approve, then it'll be down here. There's 3 ellipses right here that'll say, hey, I need to go through that approval. It's not in my court. And so you can kind of get to any of these records that are assigned to me that are in my court, and then I can say, okay, what do I want to do? Here's an expense claim that came in. It's in my court right now. So I can come through on down here and say, hey, show me the files or show me the images that are there. Or I can click on this and say, yeah, go ahead and approve it or reject it. And so once I go through that approval, because it's in my court, it moves on to the next person. That person can go through now and we'll review and see exactly what's going on. So as we look through this, that's the idea, is that we have this set of conditions, which would be, let's notify somebody of a status of something we need them to see. Let's process this document through the approval engine and then have it go route to whatever map we've designed. And then we also can use the assignments. So I'm going to assign, approve, and notify. Everything is linked together. And so as we move into the different documents that you may see, you'll find that as these new documents come out, and actually I don't have any, let's see if I got anything else in here, maybe an RFI. This is a new set of data, but if we go in and we define an RFI, you'll usually see that it has been, if it's been activated through the approval process, it would show up here as something that we want to go through an approval, an assignment, notification. And so you've got those data elements that are really defined to the individual record, and it's managing how we're moving that document through the organization with an ability to monitor, manage where things are, what things are stuck, and then we log all those activities. So at any point in time, we can see exactly how an accounts payable bill was, how did it start, who approved it, when did they approve it, what's the status, and be able to look back and say, yeah, that's what happened here, and be able to do it on my tablet, on my PC, on my Mac, on my phone, and all of that being just part of the core solution that we were looking at. So again, this becomes this. As we look to see what we're doing, part of the platform are these tools, and the tool is really what's driving what we're doing here. We're applying a tool to an area of the software. So in short, that is assignment, notification, and approval. If you've got any questions, please give us a call at Alliance Solutions Group, 888-559-9540. Thank you.